morning. I'm Cindy Wicker, and I'm happy to serve this congregation as co-board chair and as a member of your board of trustees. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you for joining us both in person and online. Please scan the QR code on the screen to let us know that you are here, to get a digital version of our order of service, and to find our donation page. If you are visiting with us this morning, welcome. We have a first-time visitor gift for you at the greeters table, and one of our beloved volunteers will be available in Sloter Lounge. It's the glass enclosed room at the back corner of the worship center to share our Getting to Know UU information. This conversation is open to anyone, whether you're new or have been at First UU for years. Board members are available in Beach Hall, which out the doors to the left, after the service to talk all things First UU as well. Just look for the sign that says board member here. We have a few announcements this morning, just a little bit. Today after church, join our treasurer and current board members to learn about how we fund our faith community today from 11:30 to 1 p.m. in room 301, down the hall past the bathrooms. You're invited to the Enchanted Forest Ball, Friday, February 16th at 6:30. Step into a magical realm at our All Ages Enchanted Forest Valentine's Ball, hosted by the First UU Youth Group. Dress in your most magical attire, pose under the twinkling lights in the photo booth, and enjoy some delicious treats as we come together to dance and raise funds for our summer youth. Tickets are $10. I think this is supposed to say youth trip. I think is what it's supposed to say. Just cut off there. Tickets are $10 each, available during coffee hour. Anti-Racist Allies invite you to join us at the movies this February to learn more about Black history. This week, Till, Devotion, and Black Panther are playing for $5 or free in Central Ohio. Check Friday News and the bulletin boards for more details. School for Young Children applications are open for the 2024-25 school year, available from now until February 16th. Look for the links in Friday News or call our offices for more information.
So during the month of February, we'd like to recognize Black History Month with a moment in each service connecting a phrase from the proposed 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism with Black history. And I forgot to say, I'm Amanda Hayes, I serve as your Justice Minister, and my pronouns are she, her. So good morning. Good morning. So for our first week, I want to give an example of working accountably with a piece of history that happened within our own Unitarian Universalist Association, or UUA. In the late 1960s, our General Assembly and the UUA board first committed to, and then reneged on, funding for a Black Affairs Council. As a result of this lack of accountability, during what is now called the empowerment controversy, many Black UUs felt understandably betrayed and left our association. Fast forward to 2016, when our association was given a new opportunity for accountability, when Black Lives of UU, or BLUE, asked for $5.3 million investment in BLUE, or Black Lives of UU. 3 years later, in 2019, through the Promise and the Practice campaign, we fulfilled that promised investment, which has allowed BLUE to better support Black UUs and work for liberation in our world. The Reverend Bill Sinkford, who had initially left during the empowerment controversy, but later became our first Black UUA president, writes about the importance of how remaining accountable to our promise this time helped to rebuild trust betrayed by the empowerment controversy. He also writes that this investment is a confession that, like every institution in this nation, Our faith participates in the culture of white supremacy and will only survive by a commitment to a shift in that culture. So I end this moment with a question for reflection. What could working accountably look like here at First UU? Please rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, which is number 134 in our great hymnal, Our World is One World.
Stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Kelly McNeil. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve this amazing congregation as your minister of congregational life. Welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. We begin this service by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, and Cayuga people. We cultivate this awareness that concrete acts of solidarity, healing, and reparation accompany our symbolic acknowledgments. And we encourage you to visit and pay your respects at Shrum Mound, an Adena burial mound on the west side of the Scioto River. Historians believe that the size of this burial mound indicate that the area was highly populated around 2,000 years ago. We also want to welcome back into our pulpit the Reverend Marco Belletini, our Minister Emeritus. We are very, very grateful to have him back with us again this morning. Our first reading this morning is a poem by Nikita Gill. You are not small. You are not unworthy. You are not insignificant. The universe wove you from a constellation just so Adam, every fiber in you comes from a different star. Together you are bound by stardust, all together spectacularly created by the energy of the universe itself. And that, my darling, is the poetry of physics, the poetry of you. It is now time for our children to meet Gus back in the back of the sanctuary to help us to prepare to bring in the light. As they do that, I invite you into a time of greeting one another. It is now time for our children to bring in the light. We light our chalice this morning with words from Steve Stock. We light this chalice to celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to reaffirm the historic pledge of liberal religion, to seek that justice which transcends mere legality and moves toward the resolution of true equity, and to share that love which is ultimately beyond even our cherished reason, that love which unites us.
Thank you, Junie, for your help lighting our chalice this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, they. Today's story is called We Move Together, written by Kelly Fritsch and Anne McGuire and illustrated by Eduardo Trejos. We move fast. We move slow. We move together. Sometimes we have to wait. Waiting can feel boring, frustrating, hard. Waiting can also feel exciting. Like butterflies, like love. We wait so we can spend time together. Sometimes when we're together, we get stopped in our tracks. Like when all the fun and flavors of ice cream are just one step out of reach. We notice when things are unfair, and it helps us get creative. We make plans. We solve problems. We build something better. We work together. Kids and dogs, bodies and machines, bees and flowers, fish and water. Relying on each other helps us get where we need to go. Sometimes we find ourselves in unfamiliar places. We wonder. We get curious. We might have more questions than answers. Our questions can help us learn to do things differently and discover new ways of understanding each other. For the things that connect us are also what nourish us, like roots and tubes and straws and friends. These things that connect us are often what challenge us. Sometimes we disagree about how to be together. Solving one problem can create another, and we don't always know how to make things better. Sometimes we need to take a break. Even when we're by ourselves, we never move alone, like feeling so close with someone who's far, like learning from others who have come before. Their memories can ground us, soothe us, move us. Whether we're by ourselves or surrounded by many, our small movements can turn into big movements. We celebrate. We make change. We move together. The end. All bodies are unique and essential. All bodies are whole. All bodies have strengths and needs that must be met. We are powerful, not despite the complexities of our bodies, but because of them. We move together with no body left behind. This is disability justice. Together, let us sing our young people back to their families and out to class.
As a church community, we have been saddened and angered by the state legislation that passed in January impacting trans youth, young adults, and their families. We will continue to welcome, celebrate, and support the beauty and wholeness of trans youth, trans people, and their families in our congregation and across Ohio. And so we are proud to share our offering plate in February with Kaleidoscope Youth Center, or KYC. This morning, I'd like to welcome Lizanne Ball from KYC to share about KYC's vital work, which is more important than ever in this moment.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Lisanne. My pronouns are she, they, and I am the QT Pot Community Care Manager for Kaleidoscope Youth Center. For those of you who don't know, Kaleidoscope is Ohio's largest and longest running LGBTQ youth organization. We're actually celebrating our 30th year this year, so we're very excited. We would not be able to do the work that we do for the past 30 years without the help of folks like you in our community. I could stand up here and I could tell you a little bit about all the work we do, but I feel like the best way for me to do that is to actually share the story of one of our youths. When you come to Kaleidoscope, belonging is what we hope to achieve with you. And so for a young youth, age 16, to walk through our doors, currently exploring her trans identity, and being able to offer a social space for her to hang out in is just one of the things that we do. That drop-in space has affinity-based programming, art club, movie night, and just an all-around great opportunity to be social with other young queer and trans folks. This youth also was housing unstable when she first came to us. Through our housing program, we have been able to give her not only shelter, but stability. We were able to assign a case manager to her, as well as get her enrolled in our free therapy services. And she has become one of the biggest advocates for trans youth in our center, working with our education and outreach team, as well as our advocacy and civic engagement teams. That's just a small example of what we do at Kaleidoscope. From our drop-in center to our advocacy and outreach, our education department, and our community-based wellness, we try to make sure that we are holistically caring for queer youth here in Ohio. And like I said, we could not do that without the help and the support of our community. And we need you now more than ever. We have to protect our trans youth. So I want to thank all of you again for letting me be here today. Thank you for spreading the word about Kaleidoscope, and thank you for being such wonderful community members. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Lisanne. Please use the QR code on the order of service, text the number on the screen, or go to our website, firstucolumbus.org, and click the Donate tab to give as generously as you are able. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
In addition to sharing our financial resources, another way we build our community is by sharing our joys and sorrows with one another. So this morning, I lift up the following joys and sorrows. We send our deepest sympathy to Marguerite Molk and her family. Marguerite's sister Evelyn died in January while in hospice. Our condolences to Jennifer Nichols and her family. Jennifer's father died yesterday morning, also in hospice care, following several years living with dementia. Memorial service plans are incomplete at this time. Our thoughts and prayers are with our administrator, Brian, and his family, Julie and Jeremy. Brian's mother was put in hospice earlier this week. And our condolences to the members and friends of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent, Ohio. Their minister, the Reverend Stephen Protzman, died unexpectedly. He was on leave to receive treatment from colon cancer and has been expecting to return within 4 to 6 weeks. We are in contact with regional staff and with the congregation to provide support, however, is most helpful for that congregation. As we hold all that has been shared and all that remains in our hearts, let us enter into a time of meditation and prayer.
As I hold in the embrace of my heart, as we hold in the embrace of our hearts, all among us who know grief, all who might be rejoicing, all who wonder, I speak these words. O love, I do not turn away from all the horrific stories of my fellow humans suffering in Congo, in Gaza, in Ukraine, or in the streets of Columbus, where the houseless shudder in doorways. But I also turn to all that enables me not to collapse into paralysis. The eyes of a friend across a table, a young bud on a branch, even this early in February, the sun etched on a cloud, a poem by Langston Hughes recited out loud, a film that thaws my heart, a hand holding a hand. I do not turn from reality without also turning to self-care and refusing the ancient myth of Atlas holding up the whole world on my back, because that is foolish. I open my heart to any prophet, any poet, any artist who tells the truth fervently and loves just as fervently and refuses to give up on me and my hope and my dreams, no matter how much the world tries to tip me over. Oh, love, come and leave these words now, and instead fill this silence, and then rise in our song. Let us sing together 1053, How Could Anyone? Remain seated. The first reading this morning is a poem by the truly great Black trans poet Cameron Awkward Rich. This is from Meditations in an Emergency, 2019. He is a professor at Amherst in Massachusetts. I wake up, and it breaks my heart. I draw the blinds, and the thrill of rain breaks my heart. I go outside. I ride the train. I walk among the buildings, men in Monday suits. The flight of doves, the city of tents beneath the underpass, the huddled mast, old women hawking roses and children, all of them break my heart. There's a dream I have in which I love the world. I run from end to end like fingers through her hair. There are no borders, only wind. Like you, I was born. Like you, I was raised in the institution of dreaming. Hand on my heart, hand in my stupid heart. Second reading is Nicole Cozier's poem Fragments. She is the Senior Vice President of the Human Rights Campaign on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and she lives in Washington, D.C. with her wife and daughter.
I move through the world in fragments, tripping over parts of myself along the way. As each fragment jockeys for recognition, validation, and acceptance, I learn to quiet their clamoring voices like a nervous parent quiets an exuberant child calling too much attention to itself. I contort my pieces to fit into spaces that were clearly not meant for me. The discomfort means I cannot stay long. At the end of the day, I do a roll call to ensure all my fragments are accounted for and none have been left behind. A comrade asks, "Who would you be in a world without oppression?" I answer, whole.
Every month, there's a theme to the services, and this month the theme is equity. And by definition, equity recognizes that though each person knows different circumstances, equity allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. So let's dive right in to that central value as it applies to today's world. Back in the 70s, I worked at Hawthorne Center for Emotionally Impaired Children in suburban Detroit, a residential treatment center. Greg was a 10-year-old there, cheerful, frequently smiling, cooperative. None of us actually could figure out what disruptive behavior at school had even brought him to us. But eventually we discovered that he was able, quite skillfully and cleverly, with a wink or a scrunched up face, to control other children's behavior, spinning them into fighting with each other while he remained an innocent angel. And sadly, we eventually found out why controlling the behavior of his peers like that was so important to him. You see, one day we were playing baseball, softball, the staff and the kids together. Greg excelled at athletics everywhere else. But that day he couldn't hit the ball at all, not even close. He seemed oddly uncoordinated for an ordinarily very coordinated young man. Then one staff member went over to coach him. "Hey, Greg, try hitting left-handed." He looked a little scared, and then he looked up and said, "Really?" "Really," said his encourager. The pitcher threw the ball, loud crack. Greg hit the ball so hard it went far into the forest, and we never found the full thing again. This event, when reported to her, made his therapist explore Greg's home life. She found out that his mother was superstitious about left-handedness. "It's the devil's hand," she scolded. Sinister, sinister, is the Latin word for left, and even though she didn't know any Latin, she did think that Greg's left hand was the center of evil. So she used to hold his hand over the flame on the stove to burn him and keep him from using his left hand. When his therapist told me this story, my hand went right to my heart. Oh my God, how could anyone do that to a child? Greg's therapist eventually disabused Greg's mother of her vile beliefs. And as Greg learned to freely use his own dominant hand, he stopped dominating his peers. Recently, a social media friend posted this chart on his site. It confirms that Greg must have not been the only one being singled out and shamed and even hurt for being left-handed. In 1920, only 4% claimed to be left-handed in this country. By the year 2000, the percentage had risen up to 12%. So were more people being born left-handed? Of course not. It's simply a matter of more and more people getting educated out of a superstition and left-handers coming more and more out of the closet, as the phrase goes. Now these days, as you heard earlier, you're going to hear shrill conservatives concerned over what appears to be a growing number of people on the gay, lesbian, bi, trans, and non-binary spectrum, especially these days, trans persons, the smallest percentage of persons in the whole LGBTQ plus rainbow. Bullies, after all, prefer to pick on anyone smaller than them in size or number. But the same thing that is true on that graph about left-handed people is also true in this regard as well. In the 70s, many of us on that continuum grew strong from frustration, lifted our hands off the fires they had been pushed on, and raised a fist in rebellion at all those who wanted us to disappear. We opened the door so that numbers now seem more, but they are, I assure you, the same as they always were. We're more visible. But trans persons were also there from the very beginning. Still now, many states, including sadly our own, are passing draconian laws that remind me of that parent holding Greg's hand over the fire. Laws that are cruel, defiantly uneducated, refusing all counsel of both scientists and mental health professionals. You may have read this week, as I did, that legislators in Ohio and Michigan are teaming together to make any support of trans persons, regardless of age, totally impossible. When I heard this, I again put my hand on my heart. Oh my God, how could anybody be so cruel? Now, I myself did not meet and get to know many trans people until later in life, partially because of the closeted history I just offered. But since retirement, that has changed a great deal in my life. So much so that I now count as family, La Familia, a trans person named Honey. There's Honey up there. We call each other grandfriends, which is a combination of grandchild, grandfather, and friend. We phone each other, we visit each other. They are family to me. And because the laws being passed in so many states striking against a member of my beloved family, my grandparently emotions are on fire. I find myself imagining storming into the legislative halls downtown and scream quoting John the Baptist as reported in the Gospel of Luke, "You brood of vipers." This Christmas, Honey introduced me to their girlfriend, Junior, also in that picture, whom I quickly came to adore as much as I have adored Honey over the last 8 years. Did I always get the pronouns right as I got to know Honey? No, of course not. It takes a certain amount of time and commitment and constant self-reminders to catch up to that. But I am convinced that learning appropriate pronouns and appropriate names will become as easy with practice over time as it was when my own mother changed her birth name of Elizabeth Pottsy to Elisa Gali when she was 10 years old. And my grandmother Anna certainly learned to call her daughter well by her new chosen name. This week, I saw the film Origin by Ava DuVernay. It boldly addresses race issues in this nation, yes, but she asked the question, why is the word racist always used? The main character in the film, who plays Isabel Wilkerson, the woman who wrote the book on which the film is based, Caste is the name of the book, noted that the Nazis in Germany shared the same skin color as the Jews and Roma people and many others whom they slaughtered. How is that related to white on black racism here? Thus, she began to learn that the Nazis discovered exactly how to set up a whole group of people apart to dehumanize them by copying the historic cruel treatment of persons of dark skin by people of pale skin here in the States. We trained the Nazis. The Warsaw Ghetto was based on the model of ghettos in our cities. The Jim Crow laws here taught the leaders in Berlin how to pass laws one by one to slowly build up to the final solution of wiping them off the earth. The Dalits, formerly called the untouchable caste, in India also have the same skin color as the Brahmins and other upper castes who force them to make their living standing deep in human excrement. They are not in any way different from Brahmins except by decree. Just as biology has shown that race per se has no basis in science at all. None. Zip. It's entirely made up. But that does not mean the social invention of it doesn't corrupt and doom all of our society. All you have to do is read the vile cornerstone speech by the Confederate Vice President Alexander Stephens to understand how racialization is created by deceit, proclamation, and devious language. Look it up, 1861, cornerstone speech. It's on the internet. Prepare to put your hand over your heart. If you were not taught it in school, I guarantee you that. And now a new caste is being created, trans people. The attempt to dehumanize them, demean them, surround them with deceitful language is another example of what we found here in the States in mid-last century Germany and for ages in India. A whole group of people set apart and demonized. And again, my hand goes to my heart. As the first reading put it so beautifully, I wake up and it breaks my heart. Like you, I was born. Like you, I was born in the institution of dreaming. I dream as all of you dream, as everyone dreams. And in the second reading, we heard the question, who would you be in a world without oppression? And I answer, whole. Who would you be, Greg, if your hand was not placed into the fire? Who would you be, Trayvon Martin, if you were not shot because of some idiotic interpretation of your beautiful skin? Who would you be, trans family, if you could be supported by your kindreds and your doctors and your friends because you realize you are not the same gender inside as you appear to some on the outside? Who would I be? I would become the person who puts my hand on my heart one more time, but in joy this time, not sorrow, in gratitude, not in heaving grief. Our Universalist tradition has always supplied an answer to that question too. There are no exceptions to human love, none, zero. Hell on earth must be abolished as our ancestors in the last century abolished the threat of hell beyond death. In the words of our choir anthem this morning, that beautiful, beautiful piece, fold your hearts to each other. Listen to one another. Then all the shackles are going to fall. Love shall tread out the fire of anger, and in its ashes plant a tree of peace. And yes, we are not destinations. Our wholeness will never be perfect and final, and that's okay. You can't expect anything else. But as fragmented as we sometimes are in this broken world, we can still choose to move forward day by day, hands on our grieving, longing hearts, to live out our universalist tradition of love for each individual. Yes, and even if we have to set strong boundaries sometime, I'm not a fool. And we are called to daily tear down, by both word and act, the boxes that others have impertinently decided that we need to live in. And finally, the children's story made clear how we have to do all this by moving together, not alone, in order to create a culture of equity for everybody, every single individual. Would you now please rise and sing the closing hymn 148, Let Freedom Span Both East and West. It's an old spiritual, the tune is McKee.
Span both east and west, and love both south and north, in universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth. In beauty, wonder everywhere, let us communion find. Compassion be the golden cord, close binding humankind. Beyond all barriers of race, of color, caste, or creed, let us make friendship human worth, our common faith indeed. Then east and west will meet and share, and south shall build with north, one human commonwealth of good throughout the whole wide earth.
To take each other's hand or touch elbows, please do. If you're not, that's fine too. Go in peace from this place, accepting entirely who you are. You have no other possibilities except to be who you are, and love yourselves and love each other and be at peace with each other. So be it. Amen.
Closing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.
Thank you, Nathan.